I've been married for 3 years, and when I was dating my husband, I had never been a yeller, I didn't think, in relationships, but like all of a sudden we're quarreling and I just started screaming at him. He just so softly just looked at me and said, "Please don't yell at me." And it just broke my heart, and it reflected back to me what I was doing. I started to realize like, oh my gosh, I'm just repeating these patterns of what I've seen in my life, and I'm not even present in the moment, of what's happening. And it really was a huge part of me going through a big change when that happened. Then we no longer were dealing with like this pattern of I was just blaming him for my unhappiness when circumstances were challenging, and seeing it as that he needed to change his behavior. When I started to change my responses, then he on his own would see what he needed to work on. And I just actually saw also another side to him, like how much more appreciative I was because of that kind response. And yeah, it really, like, the love in that was just the honesty, I think helped me to see myself. And yeah, we grew so much from it.
So I had a friend that I grew up with, but I did not realize that this particular friend had a crush on me. Instead of being sympathetic and graceful in the situation, I basically told that person that they just were not for me. And I didn't say it with that level of tact. What I said is that you ugly. And it was very blunt. And looking hindsight on that situation, I wish that would not have happened, because that created trauma in that person's life. So much so that when it was time for them to actually get in a relationship, they did not think that they were worthy of love. Very insecure. That was a very hurtful conversation. And the fact that I really wish, looking in hindsight, I would have been a little bit more graceful in that situation. I can always tell that sense of trauma was always there. But I noticed that even within the friendship, as that person was going out to meet other people to date, again, they were carrying what it was that I said so many years ago, you ugly. And the people that they would pick would be a reflection of the comments that I made in the past. And you could just tell that the hurt was there. And the putting up with stuff that didn't necessarily need to be put up with, such as verbal abuse, even at times physical abuse. Now that I'm older and wiser, I've tried to be more tactful and creative in that which I say. So.
I divorced. I left my husband. Yeah, he just didn't work. I had to make a living. He didn't want to go to work. And then I had a kid. So I had to make a decision to make money and let him loose. And he had to figure it out. So yeah, I gave him half of everything and divorced. And I gave him my son every weekend till he was 16, 17. And I had him during the week because I like systems and a schedule and homework, and I wanted my son in college. So, I wrote a check and said goodbye. For my son? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because for myself, because if you're not yourself, if you're not your best, you can't serve others. So I had to be the best, and I had goals for myself and my son, and one was lots of college, lots of education to set my son up so he didn't come up like I came up.
I would say my best friend from high school, we were like really, really close, and we kind of got in a feud and we argued about something, and I kind of blamed her, but it was kind of both our fault. But we seemed to work it out, but we're not as close anymore because of it, for sure. And I only talk to her every now and then, so yeah, that probably would be mine. And that had to do with like just her. She was also way younger than me, but her being very lazy, and me being so much farther in life and her being so much less, because of age sometimes is a big difference. So when you're older and someone's younger, it kind of, you always have like a feud because you're so much farther in life and they're so much behind. And when you're trying to do something and they're behind, you kind of get in an argument when it comes to stuff like that. And I've learned that in relationships too. She was still in school and I'm more trying to do other things and kind of pulls you apart from people, for sure.
Gosh, probably my mom. In high school, we really struggled to kind of, I think, find a middle ground. And there's a lot of resentment, I think, on both of our ends. And we definitely have a similar anger style of saying really hurtful things when we're upset, and then kind of just not really wanting to address it after and just being like, we're good, right? And kind of going about it. But we've gotten a lot better as I graduated and kind of being able to just sit down and talk and be like, there's no reason to have this huge outburst and be angry when we regret it after and we don't mean really the things we're saying. It's hard to unhear things, especially even if you don't mean it. You kind of do. It doesn't come from nowhere, so we're okay. Life happens. We'll be okay. It's kind of what I tell myself.
There have been times when I've spoken quickly and harshly and blurted out something that I wish I could have taken my words back. But of course, once it's out there, you can't. You can apologize for it, but you never get it back. Once it's out there, it's blown into the wind and you can't recollect it. So with a little more maturity, I'm a little more careful with what I let come out of my mouth. I have a girlfriend with whom I'm no longer in contact that I said some pretty unkind things to that I wish I could take back. You know, I was a child at the time, but I wish I could take back. She lived next door, and she was one of my best friends, and I was going off to college, and she wasn't going off to college, I think, for financial reasons. And I said something like, so what are you going to do when you grow up? And I wish those words had never come out of my mouth. And I don't have any contact with her. I have no way to know how to contact her now.
They didn't really find out about it, but my parents don't know a whole lot of what's going on in my life just because we're not, like, super close. But I regret not being open about everything that's happening in my life with my parents because I know my dad would like us to be closer than we are, so I kind of feel that's hurting him in a way, which I feel a little bad about. We have our differences, but I wish we were closer. Judgment, maybe, because we have, like, different viewpoints on life and different beliefs, and just the differences between us ideologically, I feel like, is holding me back a little bit.
Actually going through a situation now. Me and my ex, I love him to death, always will, but together we're not blooming anything good. I feel like he can be a lot more on his own. I love him, but I've got to let him go. He's grown as a man over the last year more than I have seen him in the last 3.5 years. He's done really good for himself, and I feel like he can just be better than what he is. But he is going up. I give him that. I can't explain that I do love him, but it's not for us. And he doesn't understand my thought process, I guess. So it's killing him in the process, but...
All right, well, the worst one, I'll be honest. I contemplated leaving my wife, and it hurt her.
Very much.
It hurt her deeply, and...
But then he realized how awesome.
I realized it was a mistake, that it was something that I was going through, not that we were going through. But I felt bad for her and our 3 daughters and resolved it very quickly. Realized it and resolved it very quickly. Personal doubt. Probably the beginning of a midlife crisis, maybe. I was about to turn 40 and just questioned your first question, why do I matter? I was just feeling, I think it was depression and part of a midlife crisis. You'd start to question why you matter. And at that point,
why the relationship matters.
I was down and I was questioning everything. Why do I matter? Why does this relationship matter? That type of thing. I spent a couple of days without her and realized quickly what a mistake I'd made, and went back and just that quick in a few days realized that everything we have had and had shared at that point together really mattered more to me than I was kind of taking it for granted. And I haven't looked back regretting a second or taken it for granted since.